Hello everybody. Alright, so this is the long-awaited, and I say long-awaited because in my single player, I kept referencing a multiplayer game I was going to upload. This is it. So this is me and my buddy Josh. I'm playing as the Confederacy. He is playing as the Union. And embarrassingly enough, we just got done with a multiplayer game, and I was the Union, and he was Confederacy, and I lost in epic fashion. I lost in 64. I attacked with Grant out in the west. The attack failed miserably, partly because I decided to attack across the river, which was probably not the best of ideas. And I lost like 16 national morale or something. And because I was in 64, I only needed, I think, less than 60 national morale to lose, and it fell below that. So that was my bad. Oops. But anyways, I would say, too, it's pretty rare to lose the Union, so I managed to accomplish that feat in epic fashion. We were in early July 61. The reason I began recording now as opposed to the beginning of the game was there just wasn't a whole lot going on. So I'll just give you a brief overview of everything I've done up to this point, and then give you the lay of the land from the east to the west. And then what I'll do is I'll go offline momentarily, come back, and you will see what happened. The reason I say that is the way we're doing it is I'm doing my turn, sending it over to him. He's running the turn, doing his turn, and then sending it back to me, and so on and so forth. So what I did first turn was I attacked Fort Sumter. Obviously, I created an army out of Beauregard to increase my command points down in Fort Sumter. And then what I also did was I activated the print money, issue war bonds, as well as taxes to give me a boatload of money on the front end. Part of the reason I do that is, early on in the game, your inflation isn't that bad as a Confederacy, and I think it's a good opportunity to really bulk up on your money supply early, since long game, the money ends up becoming your biggest issue. Right now, war supply is our biggest issue. I'm doing what I can to try and alleviate that as I'll go over. But those were the first kind of actions that I took. The next action I took was to build ironworks, which I did last turn. I decided to do them in New Orleans. What were the other places? I know we're doing it in New Orleans. I want to say the other one is Charleston. No. Anyways, it's New Orleans and like two other areas, one of which is up here in the Richmond. You can't see it going on, but it's in Manchester County. In this area here. The reason I picked that is, those are places that I'm obviously going to try and defend as best as possible. And I want to do the ironworks early to get a boost in the war supply. This turn, what I did was the rail yard and then $1 for premium for the volunteers. And actually, I probably should do $1.50. I know I'm good on money right now. I'm just trying to think long term. Conscripts do become an issue for the Confederacy as well. We do almost have 100 national morale, so let's just go with the $1. I guess I can always do $1.50 later. Yeah. Let's do medium. Okay. And then I did the rail pool as well, because you can see we're hurting the rail pool. I also need the river, which I'll do next turn. I usually alternate between the two with the Confederacy. What I'm going to do is make a move on Harper's Ferry here. Here's my force, 874. Good lord. Power with Johnston as an army. Hopefully we can knock out the Army of the Potomac, who is Banks. He has a 35% command penalty right now. We only have 5%. I do have reinforcements coming up, though, so that might boost up my my command penalty here, unfortunately. Speaking of which, I think actually what I'll do, let's just have these guys go to the region for now. And I'm going to take him, and I want to attach him to that, so I can get the artillery bonus. And then these guys will go to the region. Alright, so this will be my reinforcements I can move up in the event I need to. I also have 3 wagons, so we're good on that. 1,000 power here at Harper's Ferry. I did build the HQ here. The reason is that the HQ actually provides a bonus even while it's under construction. So while this is being built, all of that I have here is going to get increased experience. since this is probably going to be one of the first areas of battle, in the game, in addition to Harper's Ferry. So that's a good way to get some bonus experience for your troops early. One of the things I'm going to do in the next couple turns is start putting some militia here, so that when that general pops in who gives promotions to militia up to conscripts, they'll already be there ready to go. I did move on Norfolk, took that. I'm bolstering it. I have artillery here. I can do bombard. I also have artillery here. I'm going to bombard so that hopefully it'll keep his fleet there. I'm actually going to try and run these guys out next turn, hopefully, as long as I can keep his fleet in there. I want Tatnall to do that because he's got better evasion. I used him to get... Let's see here. I think I can... I'm going to move Tatton up there. I'll explain in a moment why I'm doing that. I wonder if there's any bonus to promoting him. Alright, so what I can use with him is because he has an increased evasion rate, I can use that for the fleet that's up here. So I did that with the one of the blockade runners with him. I moved him up here, and then I moved it out. Now I'm going to try and get these two out, hopefully while I can keep him in there. He's only got one squadron. I don't know if he's going to bring down more. We'll see. But I don't want to risk losing these if I don't have to, since, Confederate Navy is very, very limited. Move this guy in here. He's got some artillery, so I'm going to start entrenching in this area. Again, just to protect Norfolk's rear, so that he doesn't land here and then move on me. We'll see. We'll see what I can do there. We got some blockade runners, which I'll go over those events in a moment. I'm tearing up rail here to get some war supply. Every time you tear up some rail, you get some war supply, so I'm going to try and tear up the stuff down here in Florida as best I can. I need to get more, obviously, more guys down there for that, but in the moment, that's all I got is that one cavalry. I'm going to build a fort down here, or a redoubt here in Louisiana. So I've got 3 of the 4 artillery pieces. I get the 4th coming down, and then I have the supply wagon, so I'm going to build that here. So, because I want to get that up as soon as possible, since I presume he's going to make a move on New Orleans pretty early in the game. Now, Dallas did join the Union, so he got that event where he got like 2 cavalry units, which is up here. These are the 2 guys that he got. He apparently is just going to send them up north and rejoin his forces up there. So, but because of that, we got a 6-pounder, we got some militia, and we got some cavalry out of it. So that's pretty cool. This guy, I'm thinking of sending him over here so I can get some military control. He was another guy that I got. We'll send him over there, get some military control. And then we also got some militia down here. So we'll try and entrench as much as possible Galveston. Another thing I did for all of my forts, if you notice, I pulled the coastal artillery out. You get double the hits with this when you split this out when you have ships go by. Now, granted, the lethality is a little bit decreased because it's not all one punch, but you do get twice as many shots. So I figure if anything, that'll decrease the cohesion of the ships. So that's what I'm doing. Now, I did finally get Army of the West. I'm going to move him up, actually, and I'm hoping to move on Scott, Missouri here next turn. Really just so I can inflict some casualties on him, not really because I care so much about this. But, if it's one more place that he has to take, it's going to take just, again, one more turn for him to take another region. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to build a fort here on the Obion River. And that way I can add additional artillery to any kind of river advance he does. I want to also put some artillery in here. Just make it so that every time he goes past a region, he gets hit by artillery. I want to bolster Fort Donelson as soon as I can. And then I'm moving Polk up here with this brigade and then supply wagon. Just in case Kentucky secedes, I can move quickly on that. Same thing, too, up here. I'm going to move on that guy up there. But really, ultimately, Paducah is what I want to land on here because of obviously the access. And so if Kentucky secedes early enough, I can grab Paducah as well and then start fortifying it. So, we'll see what happens and go from there. Finally, over in the far west or west of Missouri, we've got some troops here. I'm building some artillery. There we go. And then I've got more guys coming up. I've got Price going up there, so he's going to move up here. And then I'm going to probably put the cavalry in there for now, just so I can start fortifying the town. But obviously my stand is going to be open in the open area there. Try to get some military control here, and then I'm also going to move Shelby up because if there's a battle here at Springfield in 61, it's really imperative I hold it, because if I can hold it in 61, it's going to be really difficult in 62 for him to take Missouri. Well, also what I'm going to do is once these guys are done, I'm going to move up and try and burn these forts as soon as possible. I am going to torch the supply area here, and then I'm hopefully going to take this over and burn that. Again, just to make it so that any kind of advance into Arkansas is going to have to come from St. Louis. That's my goal. So we'll see if we can do that. Got some Rangers up here. I'm going to try and tear up the rail line in these areas. So we'll see. Obviously, he's got a 19% chance of doing it. He's got a 23% chance of doing it. It's just based on your power level. So we'll see how effective they are at doing that. And then not a whole lot going on over here at the moment. I am going to probably torch Arizona, though, eastern Arizona, because I just don't see myself being able to hold that long term. Here's the builds. That HQ is going to cost, that's what's cost me most, and then I'm not really building anything this turn because I'm out of war supply. That HQ used up most of my war supply. Between that, this one supply wagon rebuild, and then obviously the option to do the rail pull used up most of my tonnage. Now, to give you an idea of how I'm bringing war supply in, we got 4, 8, 15, 17 war supply that turn there. Between all of my my ships. Then anything else of relevance? I am doing the ironworks, obviously. Oh, and then I did put the telephone wire here. Made this a rich civilization, so I'll now get more money out of that for New Orleans. So the next place I'm doing is Atlanta. So again, telephone line here. Right now Atlanta is only a 75 civilized town. Once that telephone line's completed, this will become a rich county as well, which should generate some additional production for us there. I'm doing martial law up here in Knoxville just because the loyalty is so significantly tilted in favor of the Union. But then I also have some troops here as well, so a little bit over time we'll get the loyalty under control in this area. And then finally, I know I said I was going to go east to west. I'm sorry, I skipped Western Virginia though. Up here, we're going to hold this until the fall and then get out of there before the winter. So as you can see, our supplies are dwindling, so I'm moving a supply wagon up there. I've got this guy right here because this area is pretty important to me that I hold it, although he could move south if he wanted. Kind of makes me put them there, and then I'll go defense because I need to hold on to this because my line of escape right now. I always try and whatever possible give them obviously some troops. Alright, so he'll have to attack across the river, so I'm okay here for now, but I want to hold on to this until maybe the fall, and then I'll basically vacate it, plunder it, and get out of there. And I think that's everything. I'm going to attack with this next turn. We'll see how it goes. I'm attacking a little sooner than I like, but I want to hit him now, hopefully take it. That way I can put pressure on his flank come the fall, and hopefully hold on to Manassas until October, which I think is when I need to hold on to it too, to give him a 10 national morale hit. And then after that I can kind of do reevaluate things. So, alright, so I'm going to have the turn run, and I will be right back. So things did not go as we had hoped. We did not take Harper's Ferry. It wasn't really much of a battle, honestly. We did do red, so I was kind of hoping for a pretty big engagement. He had more troops than we did. He has about 9,000 more troops than we do. But what I was banking on is my leadership and the fact that I only had a 5% command penalty. He had a 35%. But nevertheless, it was only an hour's worth of battle. I'm not quite sure why it didn't go on longer than that. We didn't appear to be fatigued. It looks like only one of our brigades was fatigued in the battle. We performed pretty well. Artillery did. As you can see, he had a lot of cowardice in the battlefield. Let's say a lot, a fair amount. But nevertheless, it wasn't very big of an engagement. It was only an hour. We did inflict 1,300 casualties, almost 200 cavalry, and then 6 of his artillery pieces, interestingly enough. We lost no artillery, about 183 cavalry, but then about 200 less troops. So, I mean, considering he had almost 10,000 more troops than we did, that's perhaps not altogether bad. As you'd mentioned, as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, I wasn't entirely sure whether I wanted to attack or not. Just trying to be aggressive, make some things happen, and it didn't work out. So now what I'm going to do is move some artillery, one of my sharpshooters. I'm going to start bolstering up the Norfolk area, try and get this place nice and robust, so that if he decides to attack me, then at least it'll take him some time to actually take these areas. So I'm going to really bolster up the defenses here. I actually considered taking my forces from Johnston's army and moving it down and taking Fort Monroe. I've decided not to do that, though. He doesn't really have much there at the moment. I noticed he moved Butler up here, plus an artillery, so he probably only has like a brigade of troops in here, if that. The problem is, although I do have the heavy guns, the command penalty... So basically, the size of the force I'm going to have to move on Fort Monroe, combined with the fact I can't create corps or divisions just yet, is going to probably mean I'm going to have a significant command penalty. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to get in a position to attack Fort Monroe, which then will give him a chance to respond and reinforce it. So I feel like I'm going to be out of position, and I won't have an opportunity to kind of get back to the front here if he decides to make a move. I don't quite have the forces to shift down to Fort Monroe and hold both of these points at the moment. And it just seems like unless I know I'm going to take Fort Monroe, there's a really high likelihood I'm going to take it. I'm just going to kind of, I guess, not... I'm not going to take that risk at the moment. Although if he still has it like this come division creation time, then I may make a move. Although I think what I'm probably going to do is make a hard push on his flank here come October. I hope. Again, just to kind of keep him from reinforcing troops up here in, say, Pennsylvania, so that he can make moves on the coast or whatever. So what I did do for building, these are all computer or automatic scripting events, but I did build a couple of sharpshooters, 2 doctors, which is the most I can build, several militia. Most of these are actually going to be in Richmond, as you can see. Those are for that when that general comes in who can train them up to conscripts. But then I also, what I like to do is I like to stick militia inside towns to start fortifying towns. So, for example, here I have him in the field, and I'm going to build him. He's going to be in the town. He's going to be fortifying the town. That way, like here, if he gets attacked and it doesn't look like it's going well, he's going to flee into the structure, and we already have it already fortified. Plus, we have a supply wagon. So, again, these areas aren't necessarily to hold him off indefinitely. It's just to give me an opportunity to kind of respond and attack. Is essentially what I'm going to try and do. So what I'm going to try and do over the course of the game is have a response force in Virginia, a response force in the south, and then over in the west here. So what I'm going to do over in the west, let me finish with West Virginia just real quick because I tend to forget that. I am bringing him up to start fortifying Newmarket because obviously it's pretty important. It's got a plantation. I'm going to hold here for a couple more turns, then pull out of there. We did take this area, so I think probably what I'll do is I'm going to hold here. He can have that if he wants, but I'm going to hold here, make that my kind of defensive line in West Virginia. Over in the south here, I really need to get around to start reinforcing Charleston, so I don't have much there right now. It's pretty easy pickings, but in the next turn or two, I'm going to start building things to make sure that that's at least defensible. Again, the whole purpose isn't to hold this indefinitely, just long enough so that a response force can get there, which I don't have yet, but I will be building soon. Here's what our blockade looks like. We got 3 ships here, all of which are actually producing some pretty good results. I did bring one of my admirals, what's his face, Tatinol, which I probably should promote here pretty soon. Wonder what's happened. You can promote this later. I'll just promote him. I'm going to try and run this guy out of the harbor here while I can. He doesn't have a fleet here, so I'm hoping he doesn't bring one down this turn. I can't get the riverclad out of there because the furthest I can go, I think, is just like right here. I think. Okay, so I can actually get him. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him yet. I can bring him down to there. But I can't get past here because this is ocean. So that's the furthest I can go. Which it seems to me to keep him in with this guy. So I'm going to hold off on that. At a minimum, at least I'll have like a little bit of a river fleet here. As you can see, our ironworks are being produced or being built here. 81 days remaining till that's done. All right, so that's Virginia. That's West Virginia. Blah blah blah. All right, so Zolkifer is now on the field. I'm splitting up his force. I'll basically, without kind of giving the disposition, I can show that later. My points are going to be here for an assault on Bowling Green. As soon as Kentucky secedes, I'm reinforcing Fort Donelson as well as Fort Henry. So these two areas I'm going to have reinforced, and I may actually put a fort here potentially. I'm putting one here. I may put one here. We'll see. Who was the other? I have this guy coming up here. I'm going to put him in the field. Just for now, I may end up putting a fort here. I have to think about that. Basically, my echelon of defense is really going to be each line here. So here behind the river, and then here behind the river, and then down here at... why do I always forget the name? Corinth. Corinth and Mississippi be my third line of defense. But I would love to take Paducah, so I'm going to have a force around this area ready to move on Paducah when I can. I am attacking with McCulloch here, just to make it so that he has one more region he has to take on the Mississippi, not really for any strategic reason. And maybe just to get him to kind of think about the fact that perhaps I'm making a move up the middle here, and maybe he might want to move some of the troops that he might be building up in Missouri kind of back this way, although that might be being too hopeful, but that's fine. Alright, so I'm just trying to tear up rail here wherever possible. These guys are great because their supply lasts quite a long time, so I can have them behind the lines for a good amount of time. Maybe Shrews evade, yep. So I'm going to move up on here, attack there. Also, too, I got a couple conscripts, so I would love to get some combat experience for these guys to get the conscript thing off. Moving him up to Springfield. I did take this over, so I'm going to hopefully burn that before he has a chance to recover. And the one thing I would point out, too, by the way, so this is the big mistake I made. So I built this HQ guy last turn. I put him in this army. Well, what it ended up doing was putting him in the town, because when you first build a unit, it goes in the town. So I just lost all of my fortify bonus here. So I'm hoping he doesn't notice that. But I could have really screwed myself there. So we'll see. I have him back in the field. I did put the entrenchment bonus thing here, the defensive works. So I have to hope he doesn't attack me this turn, because I just really screwed myself doing that. But that's that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, let's see if there's anything else I want to go through. Tennessee elections. Any of you who are familiar with the game know what all this is. We did $1.50 for conscripts. We can print money again, which we did do. Oh, and then one thing I wanted to point out for those of you, because I always kind of struggle with this, whether I want to do it. Whether I want to build brigs. So now, if you're going to build brigs, one, it makes sense to do it where you have, a naval officer. So, like, we have a naval engineer right here. But then also, too, you got to do it early in the game, because otherwise it doesn't really pay for itself. But here's where it doesn't make sense. So it's 40 money and 20 war supply for one brig, and then on top of that, you got to wait 60 days. So you got to wait 6 turns before you can even have this guy ready to go, right? And then on top of that, you also have to have the replacement chit available as well, which is another 20,000 and 10 war supply. So really, you're talking about an investment of about $60,000 and what, 30 war supply just to build that one brig. Well, our brigs down here in the Gulf. Let me show you right here in Gulf. We have 2 brigs. And all they brought us was 1 money and 7 war supply. That's for 2 brigs. Right now, for brigs we didn't have to build, that's great. But to build 1 brig, think about the longevity that brig has to not only be in the blockades, but also survive. You're hoping it survives, just to pay for itself. it just, it just, at least in my opinion, does not seem worth it from the Confederacy side of things. I could see why someone would want to do it if they're thinking like, hey, this is going to break even and start making me money in 64 or 65 when I'm really hurting for money. I get it. But for me, it just doesn't seem like it's worth the juice is worth the squeeze. So that's why I will not be building any brigs. But hey, for those of you who have done it early in the game and you feel like it works out, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. All right, so with that, I'm gonna end this video, and when we're back, we'll be in early August, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.